"Jason," Connor began and beckoned me to the center of the room. "Sir can sing well. Can you not, Jason?" He gave me the mic. "Please, sing something for us." He smiled sweetly at me, except there was nothing sweet or innocent about the gesture. I had a sore throat, and he knew I couldn't sing to save a life. It was all done to embarrass me in front of the faculty. It was surely going to be something they would remember for the longest time. He stepped aside and encouraged everyone to clap for me. When the principal asked me to just get on with it, I walked to the center. Connor settled in the first row. He wanted to see me embarrassed. I took a deep breath and began singing. The first laugh was from Connor, just as I had expected. Connor always made me feel like I was in some stupid high school rom-com, where our main goal was to not teach, but to rival each other day in and day out, for no reason whatsoever. Except there was no romance, but intense rivalry, hate, and comedy. Connor was a fellow teacher, he taught math, I taught English, and that was enough reason for him to feel superior to me. Not that he was entirely at fault, I felt the same. That man couldn't do anything more than solve and prove random equations, and no, it didn't matter how useful those were in the actual world. He had not read Kafka, and it was unbelievable to me. Everyone I knew had read at least one. He was a shame to our school, and I often reminded him of such. I could not say I knew how this thing between us started. I remember him starting at the high school 2 years ago, saying something to each one of the faculty members with words of appreciation, except me. He knew everyone but me. He knew everyone's name but mine. I had to introduce myself to him, much to the amusement of some of my unprofessional colleagues. Then he nodded at me and left me standing there without another word. I didn't know, but that left an impression on me. The result was that I hated that man's guts now, or at least that was how I began my conversations every time I talked about Connor with my friends. They had grown fond of him and would not end any visit without hearing me hiss his name with 100 different swears. It was funny to them. He was annoying to me. My friend said we probably loved each other, and that was why we hated each other. I would never bother with that hypothesis. It did not make sense. The thought of it made me nauseous. This was the exact reason that when I was done embarrassing myself in front of everyone with my singing, I handed my mic to Connor with a sweet smile. There was disdain in my eyes behind my glasses. "Now, I will hand over the mic to Connor. I am sure he can rival Sinatra." He could not. He sang worse than me. However, the embarrassed flush on his face was my win. I was sure I even saw Harry, one of the teachers at school, snort behind a fist. Winter was upon us, and so was my poor health. I was not winter's baby. I was conceived in Hawaii, and my mom gave birth to me in Darjeeling. I could not handle cold weather, so it was no surprise to anyone when I sneezed left and right on Monday, the day after the small party the faculty held at school. I wore my mask and let my students study whatever they wanted, as long as they maintained discipline. I decided not to give them any homework, and did not force them to read extra either. If I told the same to my parents, they would have said it was the least I could do for the poor students' mental health. I agreed, but only slightly. It was around 3:30 p.m. and school had ended for the day. I could hear the students leaving and some of the teachers. I still had some stuff to finish, so I focused on finishing as much before leaving for the day. There was a good chance I would have to take a leave tomorrow. It was always the case with me. In case that were to happen, I would have to prepare some plans for my students. As I typed my report on my laptop, someone slid a warm cup of coffee in my direction. I looked up to find Connor walking to his seat. I looked into the cup. It looked okay. I looked up to find Connor's eyes on me. "Don't flatter yourself with any thought," he began. "I have work to do, and your sneezing is distracting the hell out of me." "I can leave," I offered. As much as I could not stand him, I did not want anyone to get sick because of me. I wouldn't have that on my conscience. He waved me away. "It's cold outside. Just drink that, and let me work." "Go home," I said, a little irritated now. It was not my mistake that I could not handle the cold. More time to sleep and be depressed. "You go home," he replied. "You look like you need it." "Don't disturb me. I have to finish this today." I grabbed the cup and sipped on the coffee. Thanks for the coffee. I had to force the words out of my mouth. It was almost as if I could vomit. He said, and returned to his work. It was only 3 days after that I realized the coffee machine wasn't working. I couldn't shake the feeling that Connor might have visited the nearest local coffee shop to buy me some. As much as I felt irritated that he intentionally wanted to come out as a good guy, I appreciated it. The nearest coffee shop happened to be 45 minutes away. I still did not like him, however, and he would not shy away from giving me reasons to feel so. "Oh, Connor," the principal said. "Nice of you to join us." It was on Friday of the same week. I felt much better than I did on Monday, and was brighter than usual. So when the principal sent Connor a disgruntled look, I considered that my win. Anything against Connor meant a delight to me. Unfortunately, the only empty seat happened to be next to mine. He sat down and clasped his hands together. As the principal went on his usual rant about the school's performance and the students who required special attention, Connor leaned in to whisper into my ears, "I hope you're well now." As strange as his concern sounded, I couldn't help but feel a little warm at that. I nodded my head and pulled my head a little away. His being so close to me did things to me that I was very much familiar with. The only problem was that I did not want him to make me feel that way. It was just weird. "Not that I'm concerned or anything," he whispered next. "I asked to make sure I would not get sick sitting so close to you." I made a face at him and looked at the principal. Engaging in conversation with that man meant a headache. I wasn't going to risk that. He raised a hand. "I have a question, Principal." The old principal sighed. "Go on, Connor." "I've heard 2 kids fail their exams in English, 12th grade. What are we supposed to do about them?" I blushed a shade of shame. "What the heck?" "What do we do with these kids who fail, Connor? The issue is that those 2 kids are doing well in my subject. You talked about holding extra study sessions, and my classes would be used for them throughout the week. I cannot take such a risk, sir." "What days?" the principal asked. "Monday and Thursday, sir," he answered, and showed him the student's schedule. "Make them miss math. Making them miss math because they couldn't differentiate between a noun and pronoun seems a little risky, in my opinion, sir." "It wasn't as simple as that," I cut in. "Their situation is worse than that." "Are you doing your work properly then, Jason?" he asked, and poked his tongue against his cheek. "Is that what you're admitting now?" "No," I answered, a little infuriated now. 22 of my other students did well in their exams. It's just these 2, and it's not my fault." "I did not say it was yours," Connor replied and raised his hands in surrender. I huffed and sat down. "They need extra readings, that's all. They will be okay." "So, they're not hopeless?" the principal asked, and checked out the names. "No, they're not, but we all know who's hopeless," I said. The next 10 minutes of the meeting passed a little awkwardly. When it ended, I stormed out of the room. I really could not stand that man for a moment. What I did not expect after such an interaction between us was an official meeting with the principal. He seemed disappointed and irritated. It was not the first time he had warned us about this, and as ashamed as I was about this meeting, I couldn't help but secretly blame it on Connor. That man ruined everything he came in contact with. "Professionalism," the principal, Mr. Bill, began, "is not a want, it's a need." He crossed his hands on the table and looked at us. "Yet, I want you two to want it. I want you two to behave like actual adults that I believe you two are. How old are you? 30, 31, 32? I cleared my throat to answer. "Keep it, Jason. I do not want to hear you blaming Connor again." He flipped through the pages of his register. "2 kids," he began, "failed in English. It's a shame, really. I have never had something like that before." I couldn't believe the tone he was using to talk to me. I felt like I was being accused or shamed, or both, actually. As upset as I was to hear it, I couldn't blame him. It was true. This was the first time in nearly 7 years that kids failed English. English-speaking people failing was incredibly insulting indeed. Surprisingly, it was not I who spoke first. "Perhaps the kids need to be serious about English then," Connor answered. "It's not always the teacher's fault that a kid fails." "Well, that is true. the principal answered. Yet this is what I will have to send up. It will not look good on us. He turned to me. Do something, Jason. Do what? I asked. There was no other option but for them to retake the exam and attend study lessons. Pass them. I sat there in shock. I can't do that. And why not? The principal asked. I told you, it will not look good. But I cannot just pass them like that. That would be, I don't know, unethical? I shrugged. Besides, it did not help that they were so careless with my subject. Nothing I said made them read their chapters. They did not finish their assignments. They always half-assed their projects. How much more was I supposed to stay silent about? If tomorrow they turned out to be reckless fools, I would consider that my failure and shame. Don't give me that now, Jason. Not with how you two behave. He did not let me speak and clasped his hands together. By the way, I have good news. Our school is holding a party next weekend for the faculty members. It's for Harry's birthday. He is turning 57. I want you two to arrange for that. I am sorry, I balked. It was Sunday. Weren't we supposed to stay at home and enjoy one off day? As much as I was aware, Harry wasn't a people person. He couldn't care less if we threw him a party on a Sunday. He was bound to feel more irritated than depressed. Out of my office, the principal replied. I have work to do, and you can ask Becky about everything else. Finances and everything. Make sure to bring a vanilla cake. Leave now. Whoa, Connor said when he walked out. Is it his birthday or what? He laughed, pushed his hands inside his pants pockets, and walked beside me. I did not say a word to him. I did not need to. He talked enough for both of us. Hey, about meeting this morning, I did not mean to insult you. I did not take it as such, I replied. I lied. I just didn't want to talk to him. Well, it looks so. Why do you even care? I asked. You never felt bad before. Well, this was different. He stopped, and he looked into my eyes. It reflects in your competence as a teacher. I did not mean to threaten or attack it. He looked sincere saying that, and so I couldn't help but sigh. You did no such thing. You pointed out something that a lot of them would have noticed anyway. You just sped up the process. I looked at one of the classrooms that I taught. I would have to return to it in an hour. Listen, I have a class. Yeah, me too. He cleared his throat. So, about the party. Oh, God, I muttered. As much as I feel the same, we will have to work on it. How about we go shopping this weekend? I narrowed my eyes on him. This entire situation was bizarre to me. Seeing Connor outside the office hours? It was a disaster bound to happen. Yet, I couldn't deny the urgency of the situation. We had little time left outside whatever personal or professional responsibilities we had. I nodded. At the supermarket around 7? Sounds like a good start. The conversation about the party started on Friday. There were 2 days before I was to meet with him. Yet the weekend came so quickly that I almost had a whiplash. Before I knew it, I was getting dressed to meet him. Oh no, I was not getting dressed to meet him. I was getting dressed to shop for the extra items that we needed for the party. Yes, that was correct. I grabbed my glasses and left my home sharp at 7. As far as I knew, Connor was a patient man. He could wait the minutes it would take me to reach the supermarket. I found him standing at the door of it. When he found my eyes, he glared at me. I could do nothing but give him a sweet smile. 15 minutes, Connor began. I waited almost 20 minutes for you to come. You should have started without me. I grabbed a bunch of party-worthy snacks and put them in the cart. There were a number of them. They almost filled it. Make sure to grab a few cold drinks. Some of them love drinking it in the cold. He did so. As he carried the 5 huge bottles, his strained arm muscles were obvious despite the thin sweater he had adorned. I tried to avoid looking at it, but couldn't help myself when my eyes drifted to his arms a few times. It was not like I was not healthy, but still. In this outfit, he looked more relaxed and friendly. I think 5 should be enough. He patted each one. Now what? Exactly. What else did we need? We looked around the supermarket and then at each other. The smiles that we gave were sort of natural. I did not feel disgusted. I felt relaxed. As strange as it sounded, I really did feel that. Almost 2 hours later, Connor sighed beside me. This is nice, he said. I sincerely hoped he was not talking about us sitting here and drinking our coffee. What? He gave a little laugh. You do not feel the same? I have no reason to, I answered and rolled my eyes. Whoa, he said and gave another laugh. Easy there. We are no longer at school. You do not have to pretend to hate me so passionately. I never pretended, I answered, as if to preserve my self-respect. Connor placed his cup on the table and crossed his arms to look over at me better. So, you hate me? Like, seriously hate me? I did not want to answer. His question sounded as if whatever it was between us was stupid, and that if I still believed in it, I was just as stupid. Answer me, he asked, and this time he sounded serious. You irritate the heck out of me, I said and bit my bottom lip. You're annoying. But do you hate me? Hate is a strong word, I replied, and avoided his eyes. Oh, we are playing politics now. He leaned over the table and smiled. Do you like politics, Jason? Do you sit down at 10 p.m. to watch your latest news? I do not do such a thing, I replied and stood up. Now let's go. We can think about other stuff tomorrow. He did not stand up. He stayed seated and looked over at me curiously. But do you hate me? He asked again. See, this is what I said. He was annoying. At the party next Sunday, he screamed over the music and in my ears, So, do you actually hate me? Like, really hate me? I stopped to give him an annoyed look and then continued sipping on my drink. Drink. It was not our plan to bring alcohol to the party. It was our principal's, and he had brought a shit ton of it. We were allowed to drink however much we wanted. The only line to not break was that of indecency. Some of the sports students were still around the premises. Just so you know, he screamed again, I don't hate you. As if I cared for that, I rolled my eyes and looked around for Harry. Looking for Harry? Connor asked in a scream. He's with the Princey. I furrowed my brows. Who? Principal Bill, he answered. Principal, he spelt with a grin. Shouldn't you know that better than me? Why don't you shut up? He grinned and looked down at my empty cup. Want another? I want another too. That I couldn't refuse. Yes, please. I couldn't tell how much we drank after that, but before I could understand anything, Connor and I were far from the party room. The music was a lot softer here, and I could hear without him screaming bloody murder into my ears. We leaned against the wall and looked over at the silent neighborhood. Because it was the school premises, there weren't any residential structures around. It was almost an open field, so even though I did not want to say the word, it was kind of intimate. Our silence was almost intimate as well. I couldn't even remember why we were here in the first place. We weren't friends who needed some time away from our rowdy colleagues. Yet, here we were. Connor was drunk, I knew, just as much as I was. So I was not very surprised when he started his rant. Hey, do you really hate me? This time I couldn't bother to not reply. Yes, I told him. Oh, wow, he said. Harsh. Then he started laughing. Although it was a stupid laugh, and for a stupid reason, I couldn't help but join him. Of course, it was then that he leaned over to press a kiss straight on my mouth. Drunk as we were, I didn't protest. I kissed him back. He pulled back. I don't hate you, he slurred. It's just got so messy. And then I couldn't help myself out of it, but I don't hate you. I didn't say anything. I felt like he had prepared a speech, and he was spewing out whatever he remembered of it now. I hadn't. I had nothing to say to whatever he was saying. So when he kissed me again, I didn't protest. Although it felt weird to be kissed by Connor, of all men. I couldn't help kissing him more. Then someone blasted an overly obnoxious song. I cringed and pulled him away. He fell down and hurt himself. When I checked it, his palm was bleeding. I apologized and wrapped my handkerchief. He blubbered something and then snapped his hand out of my hold. Fine, he said. If you want to keep it this way, I will do my best too. Then he walked out of there. I watched his retreating drunk figure and leaned against the wall with a loud sigh. Whatever the heck was going on between us anyway? I couldn't say anything anymore. It was almost as if my friends were right, and the very thought sent shivers down my spine. The next day, strangely, I remembered everything that happened that night, and I couldn't help but feel guilty about how I hurt Connor. After lunch, I made sure to check the common room twice before I cornered him. He was only a little taller than me, so it did not look very weird. "I am sorry," I said, and stepped back a little when I realized how close we were. I did not know why I was apologizing. I could have simply moved on, forgotten about it, and he would have done the same. We could have returned to the same old bickering, but, strangely, I wanted to clarify my stance on the situation. I did not mean to hurt him, and I wanted him to know that. "I am sorry." "You did not mean to hurt me," he said. "If you did, then you would have?" It was a play at words, I knew. "No, and that's why I'm apologizing." He waved me away. "It's all right. I'm not upset. It should heal in some time." He glanced at me and then removed himself from the corner. When he picked up his register and started to leave the common room, I stopped him with a small whisper of his name. I felt nervous, so I was very aware of the slight flush on my cheeks. "What?" he asked, turned to me, and looked through the register. "Be quick. I have a class test to manage." I looked at the door to see if anyone was there. When I found no one, I looked at him again. "I didn't hate the kiss," I said. That caught his attention. He looked up mid-work, and a slow grin formed on his face before he gave a small laugh. "Oh, I like the kiss too." I said I did not hate it. "Oh, I know what you mean, all right." He grinned and ran a hand through his hair. "But I need to go. I have to take this test. The kids are getting lazy." "Yeah, sure." I nodded. He smiled, sighed, and turned to leave. I was slightly disappointed, and I could not tell why. I expected that to be the end of this interaction, but he returned a minute later, stalked close to me, and dropped a kiss on my mouth. "Let's go on a date, Jason," he said, and then left. We did go on a date the same weekend, and although we were awkward at first, I couldn't help but think at the end of the day why we were even fighting to begin with. Talking to Connor, I realized, wasn't as difficult and dramatic as I always made it sound like. He was a sensible man who subscribed to nearly every math channel on YouTube and rigorously watched new updates on his favorite ones. What was even better, however, was the kissing part. For whatever reason, I did not feel awkward being touched by him or touching him. It all seemed natural, more so when Connor initiated a kiss or two, with a kind of confidence that I knew I couldn't have. It was nice to have him. The next week, we walked to the school. We decided to do so at Connor's suggestion until the weather allowed us. The only care we had to take care of was to make sure we separated at least 10 minutes before nearing the school premises. The kids talked, and we did not want them to talk. "Was I really your first kiss?" I couldn't help but ask. He nodded and awkwardly shifted his books from one hand to another. "I have dated several people, but honestly, math kept me so busy. I couldn't really commit to them." Now that was the sound of a premonition. We weren't really dating, but it scared me to bits that he would not shy away from leaving this relationship behind if it ever happened between his studies and him. I did not intend to separate him from math, yet I worried greatly. "That's wow," I said, and furrowed my eyebrows when he furrowed his. "I know." He sighed. When he got as close as we could get to the school together, he stopped and leaned down to kiss me. I backed away from the touch. He looked a little hurt, but I gave him the most obvious explanation. We couldn't take the risk. He huffed a sigh, but nodded in understanding. "So, bye," he said. "Bye." I was sure we had done our best to hide anything that was between us. We avoided kissing at school and met only when we absolutely needed to, mostly because of schoolwork. Yet, the hushed whispers started spreading throughout the school. I heard a few of them, and so did Connor. When one of the kids made an obscene sign right in front of my face, I brought him to the principal. Instead of telling the student to mind his manners, Bill started growling at me. He called Connor as well, and then began a 25-minute-long meeting regarding this. A meeting regarding our unprofessional behavior. I agreed that dating between teachers must have sounded offensive to them, but we had never done anything wrong and indecent on the school premises. We rarely even talked. But nothing of that mattered to Bill, our Princey. Instead, he pointed a finger in Connor's direction and gave him a choice: leave the school immediately or end whatever was going on between us. I was not warned to leave the school because I had built a respectable reputation in the last 5 years, but I was warned to stay away from Connor for my sake anyway. I could not help but swallow as a bile rose to my throat. The way the principal was behaving was not out of respect for the school rules or the care for his students. He was merely homophobic, disguised under the facade of concern for the budding minds of the school. "We do not meet at school," Connor said. "We do so only when the office work requires us to meet. We have never kissed or gotten intimate at the premises either. Never held hands and never did anything to jeopardize any student's mental health. Is that not enough?" "You disgust me, Connor," Bill hissed at the end. Connor leaned back into his chair and looked straight into his eyes. "Just say you're a homophobe and leave." "Connor," I warned. "Principal Bill, we will do as asked. We have not started dating, and it should not be hard for us to separate. We take the rules seriously, and we'll do our best to maintain the decorum at the school." "Thank you," Principal Bill replied, and brushed invisible dust from his jacket. "We will do no such thing," Connor replied. "We only meet after school hours. You're sending your students the wrong message, not getting punished for being rude to their teachers. You're encouraging homophobia, and both of us know how wrong that is. Please, leave," Bill said and sighed. "Jason and Connor, I expect a handwritten apology letter from both of you. Please do not forget to mention what disgusting thing you are bringing into the school premises." I dragged Connor away before he could beat the pulp out of the man. "You shouldn't have stopped me," Connor said angrily, visibly upset. "He cannot keep doing that. And what did you mean we are not going to do anything about this relationship? Jason, the whole point of doing anything was to try to make it better between ourselves. I don't want things to go bad now that I know how your kisses feel," he joked. I sighed. I said only to shut him up. "We cannot do anything here, Connor." "We can, actually." He grabbed a blank page from his register and showed it to me. "What?" A formal complaint was his answer. The complaint was registered with the help of the senior teacher at school, Harry. Connor and I decided to start planning for 1 or 2 awareness classes each month at the school. It was basically going to be designed to talk about the LGBTQ community, but with the senior grades. Weeks passed with nothing but us talking our regular classes and arranging tests. We met outside the school premises, but never really at school. It seemed to calm down Bill. However, he got upset when he found out about the complaint. The meeting was held internally and did not leave the room. However, by the end of the 3rd month, Bill was replaced by Harry. It took a while, but Harry sent the proposition to the other staff members regarding the awareness class. A few of them refused to take any part in it, and a few showed their understanding. In the end, however, Harry decided it would be started the next school year, so that the schedule could be easily managed. Although I thought it would be all right being in the school now that Bill was nowhere to traumatize us, Connor no longer wanted to stay there. He informed me that he was looking for available posts in different schools, and even outside the city. Although I did not like the idea at first, I couldn't help but do the same. In the meantime, although we did not officially start dating yet, we did spend a lot of time together, the result of which was the first time that we slept together. It was a week after Bill was removed from his position. "How sensible is the idea that you should share this apartment with me?" Connor asked. I looked around the place and shrugged. "You do not want to?" he asked. "I just think it's too early," I answered. He nodded. "As much as I hate that answer, that's right." He laid down beside me. "So?" I asked. "So you can drop by my place whenever you want, and I can drop by yours." "Sounds good," I answered with a smile. "Right." Connor managed to find a post for a math teacher an hour away from the school he previously worked at. I still could not find it, so I stayed at the same school. Despite my suggestion that he need to find an apartment near the school, he decided to not leave. Now he commuted back and forth throughout the day. It was only on his birthday that I proposed to him, and we officially started dating. It was still a secret that we kept from our respective colleagues, but at least there was no one to bother us. The end. It might have worked for Jason and Connor, but is it always possible to deal with homophobes sitting at a position of power? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.